we've got Chris online, and we're going to get her on. And just like before, how we run our quick introduction, we play their recorded video, and then there we've got Chris, and so she's going to be then joining us after for any live Q&A. So thank you. Let me go ahead and give my introduction, and I'll do a quick screen share here. And if you were with us yesterday as well, you might have seen some of her work. She also submitted to our Moon Slam poetry. So we're getting another grace with Chris here. So it's pretty neat to see that a lot of our artists are not restricted to one medium, as we talked about with Lacey. She pushes herself to explore different mediums, and I believe a lot of our artists take that same approach. So that was really wonderful. It was really cool to see a few of our artists had submit to multiple categories. All right. So Chris is a graphics designer working for the Division of Human Resources. She has a bachelor's degree from ASU in design science and is currently working on her fine arts degree with a concentration in painting and illustration from the University of Arizona. Her artwork uses photography to capture images of the moon, which she then renders into oils, pastels, and acrylic to make tactile art. And so, as I said below, or as before, think of your questions for Chris as we watch her presentation video. Drop them in the chat or in the Q&A, either one. I'm monitoring both, and I'll see them. We'll answer them all at once, and we'll go ahead and play her video next. I'm going to stop my video, and then we'll be joining Chris afterwards. We'll see you soon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrysanthe Kapuranis. Welcome to my presentation. It's called The Moon Lights My Way. I'm an artist. I'm interested in astronomy, and I'm a fine arts student, and I've always loved the moon. And one evening I was out walking at the University of Arizona Mall, and I saw the telescopes out, and I was invited to come over and view, and it was my first time. I was so amazed. And that was the beginning of my journey, where I enrolled in a class in planetary science, and through moon observing in the evenings with the class, I was capturing images. And then I was able to use those images to create a beautiful triptych of the moon. And it's more like an illustration of the moon painted with my oils. And you will see that in the following slides. So I'm going to share my screen and take you on my little journey. And here we are. And so in this presentation, I will share my creative process in order to gain knowledge about the planetary science with fine art, poetry, and storytelling. A sense of wonder sparked my passion in moon art, and by observing and capturing images through the lens of the telescope just using my iPhone. And so this is a photo, though, that I took one evening. I didn't have the telescope, it was the blood moon, so I did use my Nikon camera to capture this one. Here I am on the right, it's moon observing night, and that's the telescope and that I've been using to capture the images. On the left, I'm in art class, and I'm beginning to sketch out onto the canvas and the painting in the full moon, putting in some of the colors, laying in the color of mixing the paint with the gray tones, and starting the project. And this is the final. So it was viewed more like an illustration of the moon because I tried to be very careful and put in all the details of the craters. And the center full moon is 30 inches by 30 inches, and the two sides are 15 by 30. And this is the moon book that I'm creating in letterpress class. It's called the Book Art and Letterpress Lab was the class. And I'm continuing the journey of the moon with a poem called Woman of the Moon. Letterpress is the oldest type of printing from a raised surface used in the 15th century by Johannes Gutenberg. In order to create the book, I had to make the films, as you could see towards the bottom right, and then I had to make the plate using photopolymer, and by exposing it from the drawings, I got a raised surface, and then was able to put it on the actual press, and along with the letters of the poem. I also used some watercolor on U-Pol paper and layered the image of the moon over that, and you will see. So here's the completed book, and you see the watercolor and the illustrations that overlay, and it reminded me kind of like a nebula. On the left, you could see the actual lead type, and I had to put it together letter by letter, and it's backwards so that when it prints, then it's right side up. And I also wanted to note that a typeface, once you select your typeface, it kind of gives the voice for the piece, for the artwork that you are making, and it just complements what you are doing. And this is Tactile Moon. On the right is Professor Steve Kortenkamp. On the left, Professor Sun Ye Han. They're displaying 3D models of the moon's surface that they're created in the University of Arizona. I think it's made from a type of resin. So this is a way for blind or visually impaired students to learn the actual surface of the moon. Anybody can feel it and learn from it. So there was a conversation, and we talked about making art accessible for everyone. But now, since I'm an art student, we thought, what if I explored how a blind or visually impaired student can experience 2D art by touching and learning about astronomy? So I used acrylic paint mixed with molding paste and a palette knife used to raise the surface and making it tactile for areas of learning. And this way, students could navigate around the shapes that I've made, and then they could discover areas that we want to emphasize, like the Mare, or craters like Tycho, Copernicus, and Kepler. Let me see if the little video works, so you could see how I blended the paint and just did an example of how I lift the surface. There you go. So it took a little bit of time to create the painting, trying to make sure that it was raised enough so that somebody could gather that information through touch. And here is the final piece, and I'm dropping it off at the 2019 Art of Planetary Science exhibit. And I'm with Amanda Stadterman, a PhD candidate and lunar and planetary geologist, and she's one of the co-organizers of the Art of Planetary Science. And so the moon is an 8 by 8 inch textured from acrylic. And this is about stories. Through the generations, humans have shared stories and passed down knowledge through art, poetry, music, observing the stars and moon, and seeking answers to questions about the universe. I feel that in order to help people better understand astronomy when they might fear taking a class, combining both disciplines can make a greater impact on learning. It did for me. It helped me so much to learn and not be afraid of astronomy. So this is an image that I captured through the telescope using my iPhone. It's pretty incredible. And this is based on the story, Selene, goddess of the moon. And again, the moon, crescent moon I captured, and I used that in the art. I photographed Natalie, she was the model. And then I took something that was personal to her and turned it, it's a rosette from a cathedral, I think in Germany when she visited. And I made that be like a star in the background. And a story passed down by ancient Greek poets about heavenly bride and lunar lover Selene, who visits each night to be with Endymion, a handsome shepherd prince. And it's pastel on paper. So yeah, I enjoyed exploring another medium to create, the moon again. I thought the moon turned out pretty good with the shadows using the pastel. And this one is my latest piece called Cosmic Rose. It's a story about the creation of the universe and reflecting on our interconnectedness with place and the beauty found within the balance of the whole universe. And this too was with pastel on paper. And here we are, moon observing night with Professor Corton Kent's class and some graduate students. And then this is part of a moon project. And I have a quote from Galileo: "The nature of the human mind is such that unless it is stimulated by images of things acting upon it from without, all remembrance of them passes easily away." So I wanted to thank everyone for visiting virtually, and also thank you to the Art of Planetary Science exhibit organizers for inviting me to share my journey. And Natalie, she was the model. She's gonna play us a little music, and it's called Comptine, and it's from Rhyme of Another Summer. I hope you enjoy. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
Oh, such a beautiful way to end. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring Chris back here for some live Q&A.
Did it? Okay, there I am.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I gotta navigate all these Zoom bars. So I'm gonna spotlight you. So we've got you on. Yes, thank you so much, first off, for submitting multiple years, working with and taking the classes with Steve and working with Steve. you know, he was with us yesterday. I think you were here with us yesterday too, talking about how he does his 3D approaches, and you know, really kind of honing in on not everyone has the same senses. So we've always, last year, your moon submission, I think, yeah, we were all outside when you dropped it off, and then Amanda said, I'm buying this. I was like, ah, so Amanda bought that on the spot. I think that was the first piece of art sold for the art show last year. And I remember we were all just so amazed. It's like, wow, you know, because especially with the moon, you got this really high topography, you got this low. And so the way in which you portrayed that with the paint is just, it's fantastic. You know, it's the tactile, but like with the just the one medium itself. Of course, with Steve, he's doing the casting and the molding. But yeah, we are always impressed by your submissions, and they sold right away. And hopefully, make some more tactile moons so I can buy one day.
Yeah.
But yes, so we'll go into live Q&A next. So yeah, drop any questions in the chat or the Q&A, and then I'll be emceeing them out. And I'm curious actually about your first. I know you've got these degrees. You're working on another degree in these art realms. But what was your very first medium or approach?
Well, I started as a graphic designer. Well, it all started when I used to live in New Jersey, and I worked for a publishing company, and I learned how to do typesetting, and I just fell in love with art and layout and design. And so when I moved to Arizona years later, you know, I had my daughter, you know, after, you know, she grew up a little bit, I decided to get my degree. I've had a passion for school all my life. And so I got the graphic design degree and worked for the university system all my life, like in Phoenix at ASU and now at U of A. But my dream from even when, like a long time ago when I was young, like in my 20s, for some reason I met somebody and she mentioned the University of Arizona. And I just thought, I need to go to the University of Arizona, and I never imagined it would happen. And then one day a miracle happened, and I'm here now. And I thought, oh my God, I would love to go to school and get a fine art degree and learn painting. And because working on the computer all day, that's like my day job, my, you know, it's career, but it's so different to express yourself with a paintbrush in your hand. And, you know, most of the time I'm standing, and my easel is right here next to me. I'll show you.
Yes, I was going to say, I was kind of hoping you'd show off your studio here, since we're
So
in your studio with you.
it's a very small space. So somebody gave me another easel so I can have two paintings going. And then I have like over my watercolors, and then I have some samples from the shows. Let me see if it shows from astronomy, from the exhibits, from the art shows. I collected a few things, and also I have the embroidery machine that I'm experimenting with. I'll show you, and then just another piece that I did of our desert and sunset. So that's it. It's a tiny, tiny space. It's a tiny house, like under 800 square feet, but it's my art studio and my dream come true and coming to the university. And so one day I was walking on campus, and the Professor Kortenkamp was out with his class, and there was telescopes, and I was walking by because I was at the community garden, and I looked over, and I've always loved like the moon, like in the stars, and every night I have this passion. I just have to go out and look. And he invited me to come and look, and I was like amazed. And then I said, oh my God, I wish I could take a picture. And he said, you can. And then that's how it all started. And I said, oh my God, I'd love to take a class. And he says, you can. And so I enrolled, and that's how the journey began. And I'm so thankful because I've learned so much, and it just opened up my world to beautiful work that can be done, you know, with astronomy and art combination. And so when I went to talk, once I had finished the big moons, the triptych, and then I met Professor Sanihe. He's a blind professor, and I was so inspired, and we talked about how can art also help. And so I went off and experimented, and just asked questions of people and professors, and I don't think there's been a lot of work done in that area. So I thought, I need to explore this more. And so every time I do art now, I kind of think about it, and I think, could there be something tactile that I can add to it so it's for everybody? And I thought, how cool would it be if there was a little exhibit, like we have a room at the Fine Arts Building. It's a small exhibit space now. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool, you know, if I could have an exhibit that people can come and experience it with tactile. And teaching astronomy was kind of like, how can I help to teach astronomy and have someone have the art experience? And here's another little tiny example. Someone, an astronomer, I think geophysicist, but he gave me a little meteorite. Look how cute. It's a little heart. And
Yes.
I painted on the Yupo paper, and then I added all the crystals, but I'm thinking, here's another example, you know, you could touch and make something out of this. But I just fell in love, and I'll get it framed, you know, when we're back going to stores and stuff, but
Yes.
it sparkles like the stars. And so
Oh, no,
I
this is
love it. Isn't that
that
amazing?
is really cute, and I love that it was already heart-shaped, and I hope you submit that for 2021. As a meteorite scientist, maybe that's the one I'll get to buy next year.
Oh my God,
Uh,
I love it. And so I thought
um,
maybe, you know, I could find some more. Maybe I can get some more of these little meteorites and make more art. And then just add, you know, beautiful things. And because there's the other thing I showed the professors, Steve Kortenkamp and Sung-Hee Hung, and was embroidery. And they were able, Sung-Hee Hung was able to touch the letters, and he made all the letters out. And I thought, I
oh,
haven't experimented with embroidery to raise, like, what if I had that meteorite and that watercolor? And then what if there was something like constellations or something I can embroider with, it'll make a raised surface, and then they could feel it. And so it'll be beautiful.
that's a really good idea, especially with the constellations, because how do you convey connecting these first off, arbitrary dots in the night sky? Okay,
Yeah,
88 constellations, sure. But then, yeah, how do you draw? I mean, in planetariums, we hit the buttons and it draws the lines, and that's really helpful. But that is a really good point. How do we show someone who's blind a constellation? I think that is really, especially you could just almost take it by hemisphere or by season. Like here's the spring night sky, the feel versus the summer night sky. Oh, and just to tie it back to Betty Maya's talk, where she had the two different the Milky Way in the summer as a different position in the sky than the Milky Way in the winter, right? So you could almost, I mean, that would be a lot to embroider, probably the Milky Way band, or maybe there'd
oh,
be some
it'll be
uh,
fun.
something squishy you could sew in or something. But
Yeah,
yeah, I like that. And so yeah, just to drive home with Steve Kortenkamp and how amazing that work is. I'm so glad you were caught up by his telescopes on the mall, because
I know.
I told him how much we missed that. I would walk my dog, or I leave LPL at midnight, and the kids are out there and telescopes. It's like, wow, we don't get that anymore. Also made me realize how much we didn't clean off eyepieces. We're all putting our eyeball to the same
Yeah,
thing. So COVID realizations, but yeah, we hope to see him back out there, and then obviously you with him using the
yeah.
telescopes.
What a
And
great opportunity that was to be there
yeah,
to help people. And also, I like how the community is invited to come, because most people, like, we don't really have access, and you know, we may be interested but not pursue it. But this gave us the chance, like, and then you don't know where it's going to go, how it's going to inspire somebody, and just you know, it's just something so beautiful, like that, you know, everybody can experience.
it really is. And I could say, as a telescope operator for years, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure when someone's like never seen the moon for the first time through a telescope, never seen Jupiter. Saturn is always like, I had one person say, that's a little sticker at the end of the telescope. That's not real. That's not real. I mean, they like really didn't, they weren't convinced that the thing entering their eyeball and processing in their brain wasn't real. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get to show them that for the first time. So I'm glad that you were caught by Steve's telescopes. And we have a question from the crowd about your process. What
Okay, I
is the
wanted to show this first in case people don't know. At the
yes?
eyepiece, you have the eyepiece, you put this on the eyepiece, and then you see what's in the telescope, and you click it takes a little practice, but that's how we do it on the lawn.
Yes, and that is I'm glad you brought that up, because the detectors that are in our smartphones are CMOS, and I won't well, I've got on acronyms too much this weekend, but it's very similar to the CCD detectors that we attach to telescopes. And so it collects light in a similar fashion and bends it in the same way and brings out that detail. And now they make adapters. So like she was saying, you know, hey, get your phone, line it up, find the aperture. There are little iPhone and smartphone holders that you can put on the telescope so you don't have to be shaking, because that's like always I'm like,
Yeah.
where is it? Um, but yeah, it's really user friendly. And in fact, one idea is that we'd like to host more of these astrophotography workshops, and you could almost have shooting the moon with your iPhone workshop. Like we could actually do that.
I have my camera ready.
See, yes, we've got to do it. Yeah, the Center for Creative Photography is really into this as well. So we hope to keep partnering with them and bring folk, our artists online for that. But yeah, so the process, this person is wondering, what is the process for you for your paintings? As in, from photo/viewing of the moon to easel, from someone who is very limited in both art and knowledge and astrophotography.
Okay, from my graphic design training, so a lot of my training in graphic design I put into the art. So a perfect example would be, and I did this with everything, with almost all my pieces, before I get to the easel. For example, I was on a hill, this is my favorite place that I used to walk, and I put this grid, it's called dynamic symmetry, and I learned that in graphic design school, and I do this with everything. And also, in this example, I used it to break up the shapes, because from there, I did something I'm gonna show you. Like this was a little notebook sketchbook. So I was just experimenting with the colors, and I was using that photo because it started off with the photo. And then I was choosing the colors to kind of reference, but then I did all these little lines to abstract it. And these lines, after I did the horizontal banding that you'll see, like you see the horizontal, like see the bands, and like wherever there's purple, I did purple lines. And in the end, well, I can't, maybe I can show you later, but I put where those lines that you just saw, I turned them into embroidery lines. I sewed exactly like you saw the pencil. I created embroidery over the artwork, which was done with watercolor. And so then if I'm on the canvas, basically it's the same thing. I would put, like, let me turn, maybe it'll help me.
Yes, how perfect that we're in your studio right now.
Like
This
the
is,
lights, like, well, I have that,
there we go, yeah.
you could see kind of, but
Yeah.
like everything I do. So what I do is I take my ruler and I start doing the lines, like pretend like this was my canvas. And then I do the exact same thing like that. So it's called dynamic symmetry. And then I have my picture, where did I put it? Oops. Let me turn here. So I use it as a guide because I'm not great at drawing. So for me, like some artists, they can just start, you know, putting the paint on and painting. But with me, I use like section at a time, kind of like I could make and do this, but if it's a complicated piece like the moon, I want to make sure like I'm not missing something. So I look at each shape and I see what craters were in there. And then I'll go ahead and paint that section, and then I'll move on. And another example where I've used this technique, so it was with this. So it was square by square, you see? I didn't join it, but you could have joined it and made a whole portrait. Can you see?
Yes. Okay, yeah, I'm glad this attendee asked this question, because I had noticed with your moon triptych how symmetrical and how consistent it was with the yeah, you get the full moon in the center and then the crescents on the side. And then that's because you had the same, you had the same phone when you took it through the same telescope.
Right.
So first off, consistency. So you took an image of the full moon and then the crescent phases, these two extremes, and then you used the same exact, yeah, you graphics designed it. You had the same plate layout essentially.
And one extra step for those moons, because that was very complicated and I was in art class and I wanted to make sure like it was as accurate as possible based on my photos. Like if I took the same full moon image that NASA, it would have more craters and more detail, but this was based on the images from our telescope that I had. And so I wanted it to be from transferring from the photo to that. So the professor set up a projector to help me. In the beginning, you saw that you saw the crescent, how it was with the pencil like that. And I had like, you saw how I had, you know, the shape and there was all these shapes. Well, we projected that photo that I took from the telescope. He had a projector in the art room. And then I tried lightly, you know, to make out some of the shapes just as my guide, just like you saw on the slideshow. And that helped me so much for that particular piece because I wanted it to be so accurate. But that was the first time I did it that way, but it really worked and it really helped me. And then once I had that, then I had in class when I worked, I had my computer with the image on the screen and then kept looking back and forth. But when I worked at home, I printed out and I did the grid, and this helped me to do section by section to paint. And then I know that, oh, I didn't miss, you know, Copernicus or Kepler or Tycho or the outside of the, what do they call that? The outside when it fades to dark, there was
Oh, Terminator?
yes, that one. I learned that.
Yes.
So I wanted to make sure I got all those shapes. So it really helped to like this process, like this helps me to see, okay, what are the details in this shape so I don't miss it. And then
Yes.
I painted it. And then it took some time, but in 3 months I had all of the pieces. And I was so excited. And you saw in the video, my daughter has them now at home with her piano, and I love it.
I know it was like so beautiful over the piano, especially with her playing. So very nice touch with that. So wow, 3 months, but you're very methodical about it. And
Yeah.
you're right. Some people just walk up to the canvas, and that's kind of how I mean, I don't claim to be anything, but that's when I do. I'm like, oh, I want to paint this or draw this. I just start. But I do feel like it's, I feel lawless, and I feel like your structure is something a lot of people could benefit from. So I
Yeah.
almost want to ask you back for a workshop one day.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love to do, because I learned so much in design school, and I use it when I do layouts in my books. Everything I do for HR, like all the booklets, all the design work, everything uses this dynamic symmetry. And you naturally know where to place things, but I always like to have it because I just feel a comfort now with it because I got used to it. Like that painting back there, I grid the whole thing the same way because there were so many parts and I didn't want to miss a particular cloud color or formation and so that's how I do a lot. And sometimes I do collage where I collage different images and I'll lay them all out in the computer. I'm more comfortable to do my collage in the computer and then I print it out. And then from there, then I can transfer it, you know, on the painting, on the canvas or paper, except for the watercolors. Those, you know, you just have to draw it on the paper, like you know, the pomegranate one. Where is it? Here? Yeah. So that one, I didn't really do too much of the dynamic symmetry, just a little bit. It's in there. Like it's called. Most people know it in photography. They call it the division of thirds. Dividing, but this goes a little step more.
Yes, you're right. You're honing in on what we already know is like, I don't want to say sacred geometry, but yeah, geometrically things,
Yeah.
harmonics, they're already well versed. Like we know that. And so I've also heard that humans consider another human more beautiful the more symmetrical their face is. And so actually there's a humanistic side of when we see that symmetry, we think it's more beautiful right off, just because
Right.
it is. So you're honing in on something that's already well established, I
Yeah.
suppose. But yeah, I envision that something, if we can bring you on next year for some sort of more in depth, I think this would be really useful for our artists and participants, and myself included,
We could talk a little
to
bit about color and, you know, proportions and choosing topography and, you know, and how to get our message across and communicate, in everything we do.
Yes, yeah, I know. When Steve and I were doing his chat yesterday, I said the same thing. I said, we need to have a touch. We need to have a touch the solar system, or eat the solar system, or feel the solar
Yeah,
system installation at the Art of Planetary Science. So I think we'll have to bring you on board for that too.
thank
So
you.
apparently, I'm planning 2021 show
Yeah,
already, but we'll get through 2020 first.
okay,
Let's see. I'm
exciting.
going to double check the chat and see if we have any more questions before we let you go. Think we've got through. Oh, another one just popped up. Okay. Um, who is your biggest influence for your art?
Um, a lot of my influence came from graphic design. From this, I was trained in from like the Basel School of Design philosophy, the Bauhaus philosophy, the Swiss design. That was like graphic designers. Paul Klee influenced me with these lines for the embroidery. Like there's so many. I love everybody. I love all artists, and I'm influenced by everybody. Like I feel everyone has something to offer. And it could be something completely different, not even art, just like this astronomy. I learned so much from doing it. And I learned of the surface of the moon. And just from I take an astronomy class, so combining disciplines, I love that. And you learn from just talking to people. Somebody will say one idea and it sparks another idea.
Yeah, yeah. Yet again, you're just honing it on exactly what the art of planetary science is. It's all medias, it's all people. I mean, even though I'm grinding away in this program, when I look at these different art pieces, I get a new perspective on the things I'm already doing. And I don't say I'm an expert, but from an outside thing, you'd think the person at the planetary science department is the expert. But I open up these art files as the submissions come through, and wow, I'm blown away. Here's a diorama, here's a painting, and it's teaching me something that about, my expertise that I didn't already know. So, yeah, I agree. You're probably way influenced by too many to pick just one. It's like when someone asks you what your favorite song or band is. It's like, well, depends on the mode or the
Yeah,
mood or the motive or what's going on.
I could
But
show you like the book that I made, the poem, the one that I
ah,
read. So this was from my letterpress class, and that was amazing. But the plates that got made were the photopolymer plate. They are a raised surface, because that could also be something that's tactile. That also is used for printing. And so the booklet, I printed it. What I like about the letterpress class and printing is you could make so many copies to share with the world, kind of like it's not just one piece of art, but you can make multiple copies to just communicate whatever it is, like sharing information. And so this book has phases. The phases go around the book, like from here
yeah.
it changes
That's so fun to watch. Yeah.
like that, and
Ah.
then at the ends you get to the all of them. Here, oops, one more.
You could really, I mean, you're flipping through the pages, so we're kind of getting this like motion.
Yeah, see.
But you're symmetrical yet again, your symmetrical approach. Oh my gosh, when you flip the pages, I feel like I'm tracking that motion. That was very
Yeah,
circular.
and then so here was a transparent layer, and then the watercolor.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's so many things you could do with art to teach and enjoy as arts, but also educational.
Oh my gosh, yes. You were more than a perfect candidate to come online for us today. And, it's almost even more special that you were in your studio because although it would be nice for us to be together at LPL, you couldn't have brought your whole studio to
I
LPL.
know I couldn't.
So,
The first time I'm sharing it.
yeah,
Thank you
silver
so much.
linings, silver linings. Yeah. But thank you so much. Thank you for,
Thank you.
setting up in your office there, your studio office, and showing off, submitting poetry, submitting physical art year after year, allowing us grad students to buy your art on spot.
Well, next
um,
year I have planned a big oil painting. There is this one nebula, and I think I might work with that. So I'll let it be a surprise, but I'll
okay.
definitely consider doing more of this.
More meteorite art, and I direct you to the Gem and Mineral Show. The if it happens, I guess I don't know if they'll cancel Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. Wow, scary thought to cancel things in February, but the Hotel Tucson has the best small, just piles of little meteorites like that for the best price. And the Russians that are usually upstairs have really good deals too. So yeah, go to Hotel Tucson if you want to get little chunks like that. Those
Yeah.
that's where we go and buy. There actually is a black market for meteorites,
Uh-huh.
so you can get some good and bad dealers there. But the ones at Hotel Tucson are the best meteorites for the gem show.
Maybe I'll ask the astronomer who helped me with this, so I can reach out and maybe he could guide me too.
Exactly.
Might
Yeah.
be the same place. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he might even have more of them, or yeah, go back and buy it from the same person.
Yeah.
But yes, Chris, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
coming
much.
online. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see more.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll
Thank you,
see you
Allison.
soon.
Thank you. Bye.